Good day, and welcome to another episode of What's Happening Today, presented to you by Rapido News Network. In this episode, we will first discuss soaring rent prices in New York City. Then, we will move on to the presidential election in France that began on Sunday. Post that, we will talk about the recent developments in Pakistan. And finally, we will discuss the major news update on the Russian Ukrainian conflict. So let's get started. As New York City thrives again after long COVID-related restrictions, many who scored a sweet deal during the pandemic now face rent renewal sticker shock. Rents have risen 33%, and lease renewal asking for double is not unheard of. Those renters have been hit with a hard reality check. The halcyon days of blasting music, letting dishes pile up in the sink, and walking from the bathroom to the kitchen without the towel are now over. For them, New York's soaring real estate prices means the only way to stay is to bunk with roommate once again. For our next story in France, France began voting on Sunday in the first round of an election that has come alive in past 2 weeks as Marine Le Pen, the perennial far-right candidate, has steadily cut the polling lead of the incumbent President Emmanuel Macron. Now, within 2 percentage points of Mr. Macron in the latest IFOP fiducial polls, Ms. Le Pen has softened her tone. She has given the impression of being closer to the day-to-day concern of French people, especially with regard to sharply rising gas prices and inflation. Mr. Macron, by contrast, has often appeared disengaged, taken up with countless telephone calls to Russian President Vladimir Putin that have proved to be ineffective. Mr. Macron refuses to debate other candidates and held just one big rally in Paris. His election slogan, Avec vous, or with you, have proven to be less persuasive among French people. President Biden on French politics has repeatedly said the world is at an inflection point in the confrontation between autocracy and democracy. A France under Ms. Le Pen would push the needle in the very direction that the United States and many of France's European Union partners oppose. Now for our next story in Pakistan, Imran Khan, the former international cricket star turned politician who was elected Prime Minister of Pakistan in 2018 and who oversaw a new era of Pakistan's foreign policy that distanced the country from the United States, was removed as Prime Minister early on Sunday after losing a no-confidence vote in Parliament. The vote, coming amid soaring inflation and a rift between Mr. Khan's government and the military, capped a political crisis that has embroiled the country for weeks and came down at last to the wire in the parliamentary session that dragged into the early morning hours. Pakistan remains in a state of turmoil as it heads into early election season in the coming months. Pakistan, a nuclear-armed nation with the world's second largest Muslim population, has struggled with instability and military coups since its founding 75 years ago. While no prime minister in Pakistan has ever completed a full 5-year terms in office, Mr. Khan is the first one to be removed by a no-confidence vote. The motion to oust Mr. Khan was passed by 174 votes. That was 2 more than the requisite simple majority. Analysts expect that lawmaker will choose the opposition leader Shehbaz Sharif, brother of ex-Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, as an interim Prime Minister until the next general election, probably in October. Mr. Khan is expected to run in that election as well. Now for our final story on the Russian Ukrainian conflict, on day 45 since it began, UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson paid a surprise visit to Kyiv on Saturday to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a show of solidarity with the Ukrainian people, according to a statement issued by British and Ukrainian officials. Prime Minister Johnson pledged new military assistance to Ukraine, including about 120 armored vehicles and new anti-ship missile systems. He also guaranteed an additional $500 million in World Bank lending to Ukraine, as per a statement posted by his office. Ukrainian officials and their allies warned that Russian forces will likely target civilian areas in the east, as Russia appointed a new battlefield commander accused of using scorched earth tactics in Syria. The General Alexander Dvornikov oversaw forces accused of bombing residential neighborhoods to break support for groups that opposed Syria's leader Bashar al-Assad. Similar assaults have been allegedly reported in Ukraine in recent days, including a very recent attack on a train station in Kramatorsk on Friday that killed more than 50 people who were attempting to flee. President Zelensky of Ukraine called for an embargo on Russian oil, saying that the Russian oil pays for the Kremlin's sense of impunity. Speaking in his nightly address, Mr. Zelensky pushed for more painful restrictions on Russia's cash flow, saying an oil embargo should be the first step in that direction. In other development, Slovakia said it would provide Ukraine with a Soviet-era S-300 air defense unit, a Russian-made surface-to-air system. Japan said it would join and support war crimes investigation and expel 8 Russian diplomats. Japan added that it would ban Russian coal and restrict Russian imports of timber, vodka, and machinery. Legal experts have said that bringing war crimes against Kremlin officials would be difficult, as a high burden of proof requires prosecutors to show that soldiers and their commanders intended to violate any established rules of war. Intelligence officials in Europe believe that President Vladimir Putin of Russia is trying to achieve battlefield gains by May 9th, when he's planning to give a Victory Day speech commemorating both the Soviet victory in the Second World War and this present war in Ukraine. That was all for the major news update on April 10th. Stay tuned for our next update on the ongoing world affairs. We hope that you find this video useful. If you like this video, hit like, and for a continued update on what's happening around the world, consider subscribing. And to never miss an update whenever we post something new, hit that bell icon. If you have any comments or any suggestions, please post that in the comment sections below. Thank you.